Hello and welcome to Convoy Conspiracies, Episode 2. Had a couple of issues trying to get an episode recorded, second one. Um, but I think I've worked out all the kinks now, so we should be able to get back on track. So currently, we are in Mendoza, Argentina, having just delivered our chewing gum out of Los Andes, Chile. And we're going to pick up a load in the next town over and haul it over to Europe and then Africa. So this is going to be kind of a long haul, kind of a big deal. Should be fun. First we got to get to the load to pick it up, and that is in the next town, 270 or so kilometers over. So need to make sure don't get any speeding tickets and just make our way over there. So in the previous episode that I published yesterday, I talked about conspiracy and how it gets short-changed. You know, human beings are conspiratorial. They always have been so, and we understand that they are. And throughout history, governments have acted in abuse of human freedoms and conspired to accomplish all sorts of horrendous things. This was common knowledge. But over the past few decades, in the United States in particular, and in other Western nations, the term conspiracy has been attacked, ridiculed. The idea is that people in government are just there to help. They're magnanimous. They're angelic. They're just like you and me. But this is not the case. Okay? There are nefarious plots that occur when great deals of power and wealth are on the line. There's no question about this. We shouldn't be assuming that conspiracies do not occur, but we should assume that they do when we don't have transparency. So, now today, and I've talked about this several times now, but I'm going to repeat myself again. I want to talk about kind of a political compare and contrast. I want to talk about conservatism versus progressivism. I'm currently reading a book on the history of education in the United States and the role that conservatives played in it in particular. Parada de autobuses. So there's a bus station here from Mendoza. Parada. Not sure what that means. I have to look that up. But anyway. And the author's take on the book is that, or in the book, in the opening chapter at least, I don't know if he maintains this, but he conflates conservatism with racism of Democrats versus the small government activism of the modern conservative. And I think he's falling into a trap. Because to conserve and to progress, these are verbs. They're not nouns. They're actions taken, a means to an end. Okay? So I can conserve something in order to accomplish a greater overall objective, or I can progress towards something in the same vein. Today's modern conservatives are people who are trying to prevent a transition of our government, of our society, from what it currently is to something vastly different. And a progressive is something who's trying to do the opposite. In our modern society, we don't really have racism. in the form of institutional racism or political racism. We don't have laws that reflect racism. Okay, we simply don't. And the obsession with it, and the obsession with like mind reading white people and all of this gobbledygook nonsense that currently makes up the racism debate it's beating a dead horse. Racism has been conquered for the most part. We've had, any person of color, a minority person in the United States, has just as much opportunity as anyone else to succeed and achieve their goals. And that is the dream of the American founding, to have that type of scenario. So when a conservative says they want to conserve that, the conservation itself is not necessarily their primary objective. Their primary objective is the current state of freedom. Back in the, now to contrast that, back in the time of the Civil War, the Republican Party was founded as a alternative to the Whigs, who were ineffective in combating the Democrats and their practice of slavery. And so abolitionist, progressive Republicans made up and started the Republican Party and ended slavery in the most convincing manner possible. There's no other way, when you start sacrificing your sons and daughters and engaging in battles, and in the Civil War, that was the ultimate indication of the Republicans' dedication to abolition, period. Okay, and then the ensuing amendments, 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, that ended the institutionalized racism in the United States federal government. So, you've had Republicans in the past who were progressive, and you have Republicans now who are conservatives, but the end goal of these two groups is largely the same. Likewise, you have Democrats whose goal in the Old South was to preserve the slavery, was to overthrow the Constitution, was to overthrow individual freedom, to deny man, or to deny men their rightful freedoms, and to exert power and control over them at the governmental level. And that still exists today. The situation has changed. They had what they wanted back then in the Old South, the Democrats. Thus, they were conservative. Now they don't have what they wanted. They want a return to slavery. Of course, it will be labeled differently. It will consist of environmentalism and paying $2,000 a month in electricity to counter global warming. It will take that form, but it will have the same effect. Okay? And I know it seems cliche to fall into the Republican-Democrat paradigm for the United States, as if that is the only real explanation for the political dynamics taking place, but it really does encapsulate the struggle in the United States. There are a group of people who are not satisfied with how this nation was founded, and they want something completely different. They want authoritarian rule. They want democracy. And we do not have, even though Bill Clinton and Obama and all of these Democrats refer to our nation as a democracy, it's not. And if it were, we'd be in a very difficult place, and our lives would be very different. The Soviet Union was a democracy. Communism is a form of democracy. Are you aware of that? Most people aren't. But democracy is the mob ruling, demagoguery, getting the most people together and then wreaking havoc on, the minority. That's what democracy is. That's how it has played out in history, even even with the individuals in Greece who founded it, understood its failures and its weaknesses. It only works, if at all, in very small settings. It cannot work for a nation as populous and diverse and spread out as the United States. The United States is not a democracy, period. Okay? It is a constitutional republic, and a republic where we send people to vote for us, to represent us, and the governments made up of those individuals are constrained by the will of the people. And in the terms of the founding, in the terms of how the Constitution was written, the Declaration of Independence, the will of the people means more than just a bare majority. It means a supermajority. It means 2/3. It means 3/4. And even higher standards at times. Look at the constitutional amendment process and at the hurdles that have to be reached before something can truly be called the will of the people. The will of the people is not democracy. And it just seems as if this type of discussion is not something people are aware of, or this type of distinction between democracy and a republic is not something most people are aware of in this nation. It's not something that's taught in schools, public schools at least. And so Democrats are using that ignorance to their advantage. In fact, they are furthering that ignorance every chance they get. Okay, so let's pause the discussion here. And it is getting later in the evening, 7 p.m., and we are in San Luis, Argentina. And we should be coming up on our pickup here soon. And it looks like I'm gonna have to sleep, so we'll check the timing on some of this and see how that's gonna work out. Okay, we're gonna be turning right up ahead. Lots of traffic out here tonight. Oh gosh. Okay. Police car. So, the thing with the United States is, after decades of public education, the populace has not benefited from it in terms of its political understanding or its civic understanding. They've been reduced to almost a slave population. We're being dumbed down. Okay, I guess I can't turn on red. I didn't signal, so maybe that's why I'll have to. We are being dumbed down in the United States via public education. Our children, and if we just allow the authorities to educate our children, then we're going to be disappointed with the results, because it is not the purpose of public education to create critical thinkers. It's the purpose of public education to create controllable cogs of a planned economy and society. And that's why public education is supported so profusely with taxpayer funds. But anyway, my point is that if you look at the level of discourse that occurred at the founding of the Constitution, the founding of the nation, versus what it is now, we have devolved, if that is even a word, um, we have lost our ability to truly understand how to form effective governments, our governments that preserve freedom. We don't understand that anymore. Simply because, yes, it's a natural cycle for humanity to go through, where one generation will strive for freedom, achieve it, and then as time goes by, there is a degradation, and we are in the middle of that. There's not much that can be done to stop it on a mass scale, but in your own families and with your own children, you at least have the opportunity to inform them and keep them aware of these trends. Okay, so let's see where we are time-wise here. Let me pick up my actually, let me run up here, grab a quick nap, and we will $180,000. I can't afford this garage, but where can you park this vehicle? Am I going to hit this car back here? I guess you can only rest inside the garage, and I don't own the garage, thus I can't go inside of it. So let me go to this other location here across the street. So much fun in this game. Looking for a parking spot to bed down. Okay. Let's hit the turn signal there. Hotel. We're going to the hotel here. Okay. All right. Here we go. Okay, so now it's 4:46 in the morning. And my time is at 18 minutes, so I'm going to go for another 10 here. Let's check the freight market here. Okay, that's still available. Okay, so that is a driller all the way out to, I'm not even sure where this Gabes? Okay, what does that GPS symbol mean? Okay. Okay, let's drive. Get over there and pick that driller up. Get it into the right gear here. Okay. So yes, Republicans and Democrats really are definitive of the struggle that's taking place in the United States. Republicans trying to maintain and preserve a constitutional republic. Democrats trying to restore the tyranny of democracy in the United States. That's where we stand. And whether we are conserving, whether we are progressing, these are not as critical as what the overall desired end state is. A free society with a limited government, or an unrestrained government exercising tyranny. Okay, I just went dead here in the middle of the road. There's my pickup point. San Luis. Got some interesting skyscrapers. Alright. Let's do our pickup here. We're going to pick up this $220,000 driller. Euro, I mean, sorry. We're going 5,000 kilometers with it. So after this job, I should be able to purchase another garage and another truck. So this will get me what I need to get started on a European business. So let's go ahead and pick this puppy up. Where is he? Okay, he's over here in the backyard. Okay. There he is, Driller. All right, Mr. Driller. Let's get you hooked up. Okay, we're ready to hook on. Fifth wheel is locked. Let's get going. Boys, we got us a long trip ahead. 5,487 kilometers, all the way to Africa. Okay. Let's go. I'm excited. This thing is going to buy me a garage somewhere in Europe. Okay. So the struggle today in the United States is as intense as it has ever been. There's never been more at stake. There's never been more money, more wealth, more control, more power over individuals' lives at stake than now. Even in the time of slavery, you know, there were a lot fewer people back then, and even slaves had some degree of mental autonomy. You know, they had their own culture, their own songs, their own way of life, and yeah, it was harsh, and yeah, they were mistreated by their Democrat masters. But even now, that mental autonomy now is even being attacked. We're in 1984 era. We're in 1984 territory now, where even our thoughts they're trying to control our thoughts. They're trying to indict people on their subconscious thoughts. It's unbelievable what's happening now. So, yes, I'm not just a dyed-in-the-wool Republican supporter, mainstream Republican. That's not what I'm advocating for here, but I'm just laying out the terms of the real conflict that's going on in the United States at this time. And it's not about conservatism versus progressivism. It's about statism and authoritarianism, the old style, the old ways of the world, versus the new ideas of freedom that were thrust upon the world at the founding of the United States. And the struggle is going to be to try and preserve those for our children. We've enjoyed them for ourselves, and are we going to allow them to be thrust aside by power-hungry politicians and people too afraid, to include ourselves, to stand up for our rights? That's where we stand. And so, with that, we are at the 26-minute mark. I'll go ahead and sign off for today. We will continue this haul and talk some more. This is Convoy Conspiracies, signing off.